Hey guys, welcome back to section two of our compassion resilience work group. And I want to start with saying that as we learned in our sessions one, we really learned that compassion is requires intent to be intentional and skill, and mostly talking about that we need to notice what's going on. We need to check ourselves. We need to seek understanding. We need to engage. We need to discern. So really, with session one, we learned how compassion works and how intentional we have to be in an effort to be more compassionate. But now in session two, what we're going to learn about is compassion and action and how it can impact us and how we can keep our well-being and have self-control, have self care. The biggest thing is that compassion is kind of like love. You can't really love and give love away if you don't love yourself and feel that way about yourself. So compassion, in order to be compassionate to others, we have to recognize that we also have to be compassionate to ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves and give grace when we don't feel like we've done all that we could do, or we've failed at something. We have to also recognize that that same compassion that we show others, we have to show ourselves also. Um, so we're going to start off, and what the Compassionate Resilience program has divided our self care into four different units. They've looked at mind, strength, spirit, and heart. And in those four, they have also divided it down into two. So the first one is mind, and like what we do at work, the ability to get the most of our out of our education, our volunteering, our the jobs that we work at. Second is how we organize and organization, and that's the way we manage our time and priorities and our money and our belongings. Um, then we look at our spirit, and which encompasses our core values, and that's just like our value system. What we believe the meaning and purpose of life is. And then our rest and play, which I like a lot, and that's just how we balance work and play. Do we have enough time to enjoy this life that we're living? That's very important. We look at strength, and that talks about stress resilience and the ability to deal positively with challenges. And then we look at our care of our body. And that's the one thing, is the body will tell you if you're tired all the time, or if you're just not feeling that good. The body kind of lets you know if you're healthy, or if you might need to do some more self-care and to look at how you're handling stress. Our heart talks about our relationships, the ability to create and maintain healthy relationships, and our emotions are the ability to express our emotions and receive emotions from others. So sometimes when we are approached with people with that we have to be very compassionate with, sometimes the outcome can be satisfaction, like, yes, I feel really good about this, or sometimes the outcome can be like burnout or secondary trauma. And that secondary trauma is kind of when you are experiencing what another person, vicariously through another person. You're taking on their experiences as though they've happened to you. And so for that, so what we're going to do is the training has put secondary trauma and burnout. They put that under compassionate fatigue. But what they say is that burnout refers to the exhaustion of physical or emotional strengths or motivation, usually as a result of prolonged stress related to very high workload, non supportive work environment, and other feelings that our efforts may not make a difference. Okay, and secondary trauma is stressful events that students we serve have experienced. Some helpers experience some of the same symptoms of trauma as if the experience had happened to them. And don't we all know, we have our students come in and our hearts break and we feel the same way, that as though it happened to us. So we're putting that under compassion fatigue. And fatigue can be defined as it's the feeling of depression, sadness, exhaustion, anxiety, and irritation that may be experienced by people who are helpers in their work and or personal lives. It's important to note that compassion fatigue is a normal response to complex and overwhelming situations we might find in the workplace and hear from those that we serve. But the good thing is we're building compassionate resilience. Compassionate resilience is the ability to maintain our physical and emotional and mental well-being while responding compassionately to people who are suffering. It's almost like you have a reservoir, like you're building up a reservoir of this extra love for yourself when you're hurting for others. So that's what we're hoping to do with building compassion and resilience. So let's go to our next slide. And so with I'm sorry, I already went over this compassionate fatigue. I guess I should have. There is an article right here that's in your handbook. Definitely worth the read. Definitely worth the read. It just tells you a little bit more about being compassionate to yourselves. We look at, a lot of people think, oh, it's selfish to take care of myself, or it's selfish to take that 30 minutes and go for a walk and leave everything else behind. But you need that reservoir. You need, especially in giving fields and helping fields, we need that self care and that self love in order to be able to give that to other people. So we definitely want to make sure that we read that article and look at some aspects that we can do for ourselves. So we talked about burnout, secondary trauma, compassion fatigue, and compassion resilience. Okay. And so what that looks like is, what is self compassion? Well, self compassion is one, being kind to yourself. Yes. What is something you like? I tell my kids, hey, I love reading a good book and sitting out in my hammock. So that's, to me, self kindness, doing something that makes you happy. When everything is going badly, or you can't, you just like, I can't take anymore. At work, what I do is I just go and I say, I need to breathe. I just need 5 minutes to breathe. And that helps to get me feeling better and filling my reservoir back up. After that 5 minutes of just breathing, no phone calls, no calls, no one saying I need help. They might say they need help, but right now I cannot be compassionate and give that help and give the adequate help because I don't have it within me. So we have to show ourselves kindness, and we have to. It's critical. It's critical to show ourselves kindness, because if we can't show ourselves kindness, then are we actually showing others authentic kindness? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think, if we are not kind to ourselves and if we are not loving to ourselves, then truly, it's like wearing that mask that we have to wear. We're wearing a mask of kindness. So it's critical to show yourself self love and self kindness. The next one is common humanity. So, everyone suffers. Everyone suffers. Show me someone that says they don't suffer, and I'm going to show you someone that's not being honest with themselves. Everyone suffers. And we're not alone in this. We're not alone. And I think that sharing with someone that you might need time, or you might need to do something to fill yourself back up, that's okay, because we're not alone in this. And sometimes it's good to have someone else to talk to, that they can show that compassion to you, because we're human and we need one another. All right. Mindfulness. The one thing that I've been learning is to notice, like, my struggles. Usually I just let things go and go and go. And then before I know it, I'm like up here. And so, as I've been teaching students how to be mindful of their negative thoughts, I'm doing the same thing. I'm being mindful of struggles. I'm being mindful of negative thoughts like, oh no, I don't know how I'm going to get all of this done, and I'm changing those negative thoughts of it's okay. I'm going to take it one step at a time. So being mindful and not being reactive, like when you could be mindful of, okay, this is a struggle right now. So if you notice that you're struggling, then you can be proactive and take a step back. Instead of being reactive, like reacting to everything that happens, when you're mindful, it's being in that moment and avoiding self judgment and acknowledging I'm in a moment of struggle. Let me step back and let me think about what I can do right now. There's something that I can do, and I'm gonna make better decisions, because we all know that we make better decisions when we plan instead of when we are reactive. Because reactive, you just pop off, boom, and then you think, oh, I could have done something different. So we want to think about that as we move forward. Um, the best thing in self care, the best thing that I can say is forgive yourself, give yourself grace. We're all human. We all make mistakes. We all fail. But the one thing is, we each have the opportunity to get back up. And getting back up and loving ourselves, finding ourselves worthy, finding ourselves caring, finding ourselves acceptable is what we each need to do. Because guess what? We are all acceptable. We are all worthy. I don't care what's happened in the past. I don't care. Show your self compassion. I know I'm harping on it, but I know a lot of people do not show compassion to themselves. They'll give everything away, but then they're beating themselves up later on at night. Like, I could have done more. I could have given more. But let's focus on the positive things that you did do during that day. And when we focus on the positives, then it feeds us and gives back to us. We are recharging, and that's what I'm going to call it. We're going to recharge every day by loving ourselves and giving ourselves self compassion. We're going to recharge, and you might hear me say in the school building, Miss Coles needs to go recharge," and that means I'm going to show myself some kindness. Might also be eating a candy bar, so if I'm doing that, tell me to stop because I don't need to do that. All right, let's move on. So, in compassion, we have to think about our relationships, and this table shows what it looks like if we are in compassion fatigue, comparatively to what it looks like when we are being resilient and in those areas. So when we're looking at relationships, there's might be a lot of conflicts, and you're feeling like you're being pulled both ways. Like, I want to do this, I can't do this, and you're really not nurturing important relationships. But on the flip side, when we're in resilience and we're using self love, we're having a variety of relationships that are healthy, and there's some personal and there's work relationships. But in those relationships, there's honesty and commitment, and there's kindness and trust. So we really want to evaluate our friendships, and these are good ways to look to see, am I having compassion fatigue, or am I being resilient? We look at our emotions. If we're chronically stuck in our feelings and maybe feelings of sadness and irritability, then we might want to evaluate that also. When we're being resilient, we're able to feel and express a range of emotions, but in a healthy way. And listen, this stuff is not something that happens overnight. We grow and we build. I've been noticing personally that I'm growing every day. And thank you that I'm not the same person I was years ago, but every day I'm trying to become better. And as we're doing this training, I am just as much looking at being resilient and looking at being more compassionate, because I think I was more compassion takes action. And I think I was more sympathetic. And sympathy is just like, oh, I'm so sorry, probably you should do this. But compassion is, you know, what is it that I can do to help you? Or what do you need in this moment? And helping that person to come up with their own thing. But we know that. Okay, so core values also are, you're acting and living and working in ways that are contrary to your values. So if you're not working according to your values, you might want to evaluate that in your compassion fatigue. And then with resilience, we're living and working in alignment with our values. And I think most of us in education are living and working in line with our values, because we love children. We're educators, so I'm hoping that each of us can put a thumbs up with our core values. Rest and play, that goes without saying. Um, we need to get enough rest. And so if you're in fatigue with rest and play, you're not able to go out and do the things that you want to do. You've got a lot of conflicts going on. But I'm hoping that a lot of us are over in being resilient area where we're engaging in activities that are fun and creative. Our bodies and our spirits are just excited and we feel rejuvenated. I know when I go out and have a good time with my friends, although we're not going out, we're Zooming, but even when I'm making time to Zoom with my friends, I feel good afterwards. So anything that makes you feel good and you smile and put that smile on your face is is building that recharge for you. I've got a recharge for my iPhone and this computer, so we need a recharge for us, and we got to figure out what that is. With stress and resilience, we are facing things alone. We isolate from others. But when you're working in the area of resilience, you know that you're not alone and you ask people for help. And asking someone for help is not a sign of weakness, it's actually a sign of strength, because I think it's a sign of strength because it lets others know that I don't think I'm perfect. I don't think I can do everything. And it lets you be vulnerable. And being vulnerable is very important. It just shows others that we are human, and we need each other. I can't imagine being in this world and not having significant people in my life. Care for body, being fatigued in our body and being tired. That is, that's working without resilience. But when we have increased vitality and energy, and we are consistent, then we are working within resilience. School and work, we're doing things that doesn't make us feel good, and our gifts and talents aren't being used. So we want to be in a place of resilience where we feel like I'm making an impact. My talents are being used. I'm being helpful. I enjoy being where I am. And it goes along, and you're able to juggle between your work life and your personal life. So that's a really good thing, is that we want to balance. It's not one or the other. We want to balance. And when we're resilient, we can manage both of those. We look at organization, and and I laugh at this because there's some days that I don't think I'm being very resilient, but my mom instilled in me that you don't be late. So I'm always early, and early is like 15 to 20 minutes before I'm supposed to be there, because my mom is like, you don't be late. If you're 10 minutes early, you're late. So I kind of looked at that one like, mm-hmm. But it's like you're late to appointments, you forget things. You financially, you're not managing your finances very well, and your work and home environment might be chaotic. But in resilience, you're organized, you're with your money and your time, your priorities. You're not overscheduling, and you're making plans. And I think really what they're saying is that again, we're looking at balance. And I think with compassion, I think if we get anything out of section two, it is to be in a balance. It is. We don't give it all. And I think being resilient means that when we know we need to step back, we are going to step back. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, so here we go. in our self reflection. So we're asking that you have the ability to go in your workbooks and you can rate yourself, do a self rating. And from high to low, how you feel like you are with your relationships and your emotions, your core values, your rest and play, your mind, and your strength. And your with your mind, your schoolwork, and your organization, and with your strength, your care for body and stress resilience. So rate yourself from high to low, and be honest because no one's going to see this. It's just you, and see where you are. And then on the other side, you can write some notes of things that you might think you might need to do differently, or you think that you might need to improve. Or here's the thing too, man, I got this. Like, I might rate some other areas as kind of lower, but there are some areas in, I'm looking at relationships. Oh, I've got that. Like, I've got awesome relationships. I try to build relationships and connect. But when I go down to strength and care for body, I am tired. That might be a growth area for me. I know that I need to grow in and take better care of my strength and body and stress resilience. I know this, and that's okay. Because guess what? I gave myself grace. I said, now that the weather's getting better, I'm going to start walking again and do something else. No one's going to be high in every area. And guess what? It's okay. It's okay because there's always a growth area, and growing is a part of living, and it's a part of thriving. And I always say that we're lifelong learners, and even learning to be compassionate to ourselves is a part of that. I don't believe that being a lifelong learner means that I'm just learning things intellectually and I'm growing academically. But being a lifelong learner is also knowing how to manage your emotions. It's how to build better relationships. It's how to be more compassionate. It's how to not become burned out as I become more compassionate. So when I use the term becoming a lifelong learner, I don't simply mean that we are only learning academically or for our professions. I mean that we're learning for our emotional stability as well, our mental health. Because if we don't have good mental health, then everything that we're learning academically falls short. I hope this was a good session for you guys. And I am still so excited that you're taking this journey with me.